Dan Rubenstein, welcome back. We are on the precipice of week 11 now.
Yeah, buddy.
In the world of college football. Once you get into the double digits, that's when it starts to feel like we are coming towards a rather dramatic end. We've got playoff rankings. We've got an interesting week of games abound that we will go through over the next hour or so. As always, my friend, it is a pleasure to be with you today.
Hey, a pleasure to be with you. And here's what I was looking into some of these matchups, and I was saying, man, we're getting into like early, mid-November. Shout out to the early November, by the way. Underrated emo band from the early 2000s. Sure. I don't celebrate their entire catalog, but a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I was like, man, this Minnesota line at Rutgers, right? I said to myself, man, Rutgers has been really struggling. Minnesota's been really popping off on defense, and it seemed a little low, right? It was like 6.5.
It is, like, 6.5.
6.5. And I said to myself, maybe there's some weird, high winds in Piscataway or some sort of storm or a frozen look. When I looked at the weather, it was 79 and sunny at the moment in New Jersey. What is happening, Ty? You're wearing a t-shirt right now?
It is so warm outside. I've got the t-shirt. I've got the shorts. I've got the short socks. Yeah. It's like full-on summertime here in week 11.
Hey, real quick, it'd be great if you could consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out. Yes, it's week 11, you said? Is that where we are?
Week 11, yeah.
And there are certain things that apply. And the thing I'm going to say that applies the most right now, when you look at some of the storylines, is, man, Mizzou. What's going to happen with Mizzou? Brady Cook playing? Brady Cook not playing? Kyron Drones playing? Kyron Drones not playing? DJ Lagway playing? DJ Lagway not playing? It's hard to pick some of these. I have it as a suit up Saturday, Ty.
Okay.
If Tootin is in the backfield, suit up Saturday. If he's not suiting up, I don't know. If DJ Lagway's not suiting up and it's an Aiden Warner game, I don't know. So that's what I have, suit up Saturday.
I like it. Well, look, we've got games here. I think it's a really interesting week.
It's a great
hit follow, hit subscribe wherever it is you are listening, watching this show. We'd love to have you with us in the Verballerhood. We do have a little bit of news to get through. First round of college football playoff brackets and rankings are out. They released it as the election results were coming back. So talk about a news dump.
Yes.
I don't know if there are really any surprises here. Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Miami 4. I believe that mimics our Verballer top 12 at present. As we go out a little bit further, Texas at 5, Penn State gets benefit of the doubt at 6,
Woo!
Tennessee at 7, Indiana all the way up to 8. And then to round out your top 12, we've got BYU at 9, Notre Dame at 10, Alabama at 11, and Boise State at 12. Of course, the rankings do not correlate necessarily to the seedings.
Right. The bracket can't look like what the rankings look like in this instance.
It absolutely cannot. So the way this is set up now, and this is just preliminary, it doesn't mean anything. I don't personally have any strong reactions to this. We'll give it a few more weeks to see how we feel then. But right now, the way they drew this up, first round would be Boise State at Ohio State, Indiana at Tennessee, Alabama at Texas, and the Ty Hildenbrandt Bowl, which would really drive me crazy. Number 10 Notre Dame at number 6 Penn State.
Have they played since 2007 when I filmed the video?
I don't think so.
That you liked and led to the creation of the Solid Verbal, and so that'd be fun. So that would be the two of them playing in South Bend?
No, the two of them playing in State College.
The two of them playing in State College, and in this specific bracket for the right to play Georgia in what I assume is in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl.
That would be a bowl game. Yeah, I don't know where those games are being
Sugar
played.
Bowl. Yeah,
it's not known. We do know that the Sugar Bowl. We do know that the Rose Bowl will be part of that as well. So we'll deal with that when we get to it. But Boise and Ohio State, the winner would play BYU, which seems like it'd be a nice little run for Ohio State. Just reacting to that. Indiana, Tennessee for the right to play Oregon, Alabama, Texas, which would be a barn burner for the right to play Miami. That seems like that would be the hardest pathway in for anybody. But
yep.
Alas, Don't really have any reactions on this end of things, Dan. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. Keep voting in the Verballer Top 12 poll. You can see they've got numbers. They're doing their due diligence. They're meeting in a room, maybe virtually via Zoom. They're talking these things out. It just goes to show that our Verballers are just as smart. The numbers are the same.
Yeah,
The numbers are the numbers.
I personally have Indiana ahead of Penn State in this moment, even with Indiana's schedule. And Penn State can do a lot to sell me on the Penn State 2024 experience by covering a spread against, I think it's about a 2-touchdown spread against Washington at home.
13 points, yep.
That would do a lot to sway me if Penn State finds their throttle in early to mid-November. But otherwise, no, it all seems about reasonable. I saw SMU is 13. Rhett Lashley was super pleased that they are sort of right there in the thick of it. So
SMU right now is the first team out. Texas A&M's the second team out. The only thing that I guess I would react to is I saw our friend Pete Sampson was talking a little bit about Notre Dame being at 10 and how it does make it a little bit more of a difficult path to get them into that top 8 so that they could host the game as opposed to going on the road, playing in a place like State College or Neyland Stadium, the Shoe, wherever. There is time. And some of these teams in front of Notre Dame are going to end up losing because some of them play each other.
Yep.
And this is not to say you lose one of those games, you're necessarily falling behind a team that lost to Northern Illinois, but this is where we start looking at margins. We start looking at how do teams look in those games. And that is where Notre Dame, I think, could find it within itself, as long as they keep winning, to make a jump up, get into that top 8, and maybe host a game.
Who is the first Big 12 team out? So BYU's in this scenario, obviously, as an undefeated team, and they would be a team with a bye if they're to win, obviously, as an undefeated team. Who's the first Big 12 team out? Because I don't think you only mentioned BYU in terms of the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, so what I've got here in front of the committee is the top 15, or top 14, excuse me.
Yeah.
But if we extend it out a little bit further, we've got LSU at 15, Ole Miss at 16. To answer your question, Iowa State at 17.
So that's 17. So with some mobility, but not a crazy amount of mobility.
And then, hold on.
Yep.
We got Pitt at 18, and then 2 more Big 12 teams. Mm-hmm. Kansas State at 19, Colorado, who we have been watching Colorado very intently.
Right.
Colorado at 20. So there's room here. There's room to grow for all these Big 12 schools. But right now, obviously, BYU, by virtue of being 8-0, they are the projected 4 seed.
Right.
Provided they go on to win the conference.
BYU, no-brainer. Obviously, if they run the table, no-brainer team to make the playoff, and I would say stands a good shot at making the playoff, regardless, depending on who. I guess it's not a great shot, but it's a decent shot of making it regardless. If you finish 12-1 or something like that, you lose in the conference championship game, or you lose before, they'll obviously get into the playoff as a conference champion, but the Big 12 is in that position of, thank God we're a power conference if something goes wrong that our champion gets in, because we could be looking at a scenario in which a 2-loss Iowa State or a 2-loss Kansas State, I don't know what Kansas State's odds are right now of getting to after losing to Houston, getting to the Big 12 championship game, where it's like, yeah, they are number 19 in the rankings, but they won the conference and they shoot up to a 4 seed. So the Big 12 is in that gilded spot to make that leap. That they're just a power conference team. The ACC, not a huge winner, but you could squint and see getting a couple teams in if things shake correctly.
You could, again, preliminary rankings. This is going to change 1,000 times over before we get to the actual show, but that's where things stand as of now. You want to pick some games? Week 11?
Dan, time, help. I need picks of the week.
So you're calling it a suit-up Saturday, and I'll tell you what jumps out to me. There are 2 obvious games.
Okay.
The Georgia at Ole Miss game, and obviously the Bama LSU game that I think are the obvious headliners. Yes. But then the deeper you go into this slate, the more points of intrigue I think you can find, right? So I pulled out for one of our big games, not to give away the show too much here, Colorado at Texas Tech. That's a very meaningful game within the Big 12. That's a big game in my view. Also, speaking of the Big 12, BYU at Utah. Traditional rivalry. It's the Holy War. We know Utah is down. We don't know how bad they are down. I guess we will find out as a result of this game. It's a late kick. BYU only favored by 4 at time of recording. Again, meaningful game.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the top line unless you're a BYU or a Utah or a Big 12 fan, but it is significant. There is a lot that is riding on that. There are games all throughout the schedule, even as we get into our quads. Talk about Miami, Georgia Tech. Talk about Michigan, Indiana. Let's talk about Washington at Penn State.
Another, by the way, another suit up Saturday situation with Haynes King. Yeah.
Absolutely. You can absolutely find games that are of interest to you the deeper you get into this thing. So I would encourage people, do not be distracted by just what you are seeing on the top line as you dig into the crosstabs here, Dan, of week 11.
Right.
You will indeed find reasons to be a little bit more interested in what's going on. So I'm excited. It feels to me like there's a lot of potential for things to go haywire this weekend with respect to college football. And I am just eager to get into it with you.
Yeah, it's one of those Vegas long tube cocktails, right? It's not super wide at the top. There's not a top 3 matchup, but the depth of interest, I think, is pretty deep. Of course.
Give us a call. Don't forget at 855-VERBAL-3. We will play your voice messages on our Week 11 live recap stream Saturday at midnight Eastern. We are back on now that we are back in our home studios.
Yes, sir.
3:30 ABC. Georgia minus 2.5 American points, Dan, on the road at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big game. Ole Miss basically eliminated right now from the SEC title hunt. They could eliminate Georgia as well.
Not necessarily playoff, but title hunt. Yeah.
Not necessarily playoff, but SEC title. If Georgia were to lose, I think they are also out of the hunt for that. I want to take back something I said before. I kind of mentioned this on Tuesday. If Ole Miss wins out, they could absolutely still sneak into this playoff with a little bit of help.
Yes.
So despite the earlier stuff, there's a lot on the line here for Ole Miss, really for both teams. Here is what is stuck in my craw with this game.
Okay.
Do you remember this game last year?
I do. It was out of control quickly.
Do you remember how we were talking through this as like, this could be the breakthrough?
Right.
They win this game, Dan. You know, it's a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Lost by 35 points. 35 points.
52-17, something like that?
52-17, exactly like
wow.
that. I can't shake this feeling in the pit of my stomach that Ole Miss is a bit of a paper tiger here.
Okay.
I don't want to feel that way because I know they're better this year.
Yeah.
I genuinely feel they are better this year, but are they also a paper tiger based on what we have seen so far this year? Is that fair to assume?
So what have we seen from Ole Miss this year? They lose an overtime game to LSU. They lose an ugly offensive performance game against Kentucky, and they've generally handled their business otherwise. Yes? All
Correct.
fair to say?
They have been super impressive against the teams they should beat.
Right.
But then they got into a game like this last year. They pulled that disappearing act. And look, we all have PTSD for various things in our lives.
Yeah.
Will that be the case again? Will that be the case again for Ole Miss where they go into this game only a 2.5-point home dog, they get drubbed? Mm-hmm. Or are they going to exercise the demons here? Which is it?
It's a good question. So Georgia 2-6 against the spread. So they're not cleanly evaluated by Vegas in this moment, who would prefer that everybody be 4-4 against the spread, obviously. And Ole Miss 6-3 against the spread this year. So maybe Vegas doesn't fully have a handle on Ole Miss as well. The big narrative to me right now is, and I think you're right about Ole Miss breaking through, are they a paper tiger? The big narrative to me is Jackson Dart in a big game against a ranked team. He has been largely ordinary in these games. Be it against Kentucky, I think Ole Miss was 1 of 10 on third downs. Be it against LSU, he was fine, but not incredible. You look at their games last year against Bama, I mean, just ranked teams in general. Jackson Dart and this offense have been largely ordinary in these big spots. Obviously, these are against better defenses, better teams, but we haven't seen that breakthrough moment. Obviously, this would qualify as a breakthrough moment if Jackson Dart is looking like what he did last week against Arkansas, dropping 50, 60 points. We need to evaluate Georgia as, this is 2024 Georgia. They can be really good, especially on defense. They can look like what they did on defense against Texas. They also can look like what they did against Mississippi State. They can look like what they did against Clemson. They can look like what they did on offense for large stretches against Florida, against Kentucky, against whoever. And so I have written down here breakthrough. Ole Miss 27-23.
Whoa!
Yes. Okay. So we're talking about a couple things here. We're talking about Georgia on the road coming off of a weird, uneven performance in which they benefited from DJ Lagway going down. I don't know that they lose that game. That game feels a lot tighter with DJ Lagway in there, right?
Okay.
They were a beneficiary of playing Aiden Warner instead of DJ Lagway. Irrefutable, right?
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair. Sure.
This has been a team that has struggled to consistently find juice on the ground running the ball. This is a team that has been, I like Arian Smith, but they haven't found a true go-to passing attack this year. This is a team that has seen Carson Beck struggle with turnovers in big games. Last week against Florida, Texas game, especially early on, Bama game. Like, we have to evaluate this Georgia team as this year's team. If you're going to bring in the last 2 years, that's fine. But I know it's difficult to do, but I think we have to.
It's such a like mind twister.
Yes.
When Georgia is not as bulletproof as they've been.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm so used to that.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing this for so long now, and it just feels like that is the case every year with Georgia.
Yeah.
Certainly recently, we know that's been the case with Georgia. But to the point, like, Carson Beck looked bad last week.
He did.
He looked bad last week, and this Ole Miss front should be good enough to be able to get in his face. It really should. By the way, your Wendy Saucy Nug of the week. Maybe it's your pick. Maybe it is also that the Ole Miss defense is first in the nation in havoc rate. They are second in sacks per dropback. Could play a factor here. I think the key is to bottle up the run on the Georgia side, force the pass, try to create those havoc plays. Bear in mind, they've got a +7 turnover margin this season, so they have been good at using their defense to generate some of those game-changing plays. You do it against Georgia. We know they've got the offense that they should be able to put up points. Of course, we said that last year too.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hang-up for me. Specifically with regard to this Ole Miss offense, I look at the line and I'm scared. Because I saw what that Georgia line did to Texas, which I think is a better line than Ole Miss. And I am a little bit worried that they're going to do the same exact thing and they're just going to blow up the Ole Miss front.
Yeah.
Even if Ole Miss can hold down the Georgia offense, I see a mismatch in the trenches. Georgia's front against Ole Miss's offensive front. And I think they're going to do it again, Dan. I think Georgia is going to play the exact same game that they did a couple weeks ago. They're going to take that Ole Miss offense out of rhythm. I've got Georgia winning 31-20.
Woo. I'm not there. I'm just not there. Here, okay, so if you are on Georgia, there is something nice about this matchup. And I think Ole Miss, I believe, you can fact check me on this, you or anybody listening, I believe Ole Miss is the most penalized power conference team in America. So in terms of hidden yardage, turning 3rd and 5s into 3rd and 15s, 3rd and 2s into 3rd and 7s when you have the ball, or personal fouls on defense, helping a Georgia team march down the field freely. I hold that against Ole Miss, and I worry that you can't give Georgia free yardage in a big game, right? You have to be pretty buttoned up. I's have to be dotted, T's have to be crossed. That said, the thing I like about Ole Miss with the ball here is they have been very good against the blitz. So if Georgia's bringing pressure, and the Ole Miss offensive line is good, not amazing. Jackson Dart has been sacked probably a little bit too much. That they do generate some big plays when pressured. So if there is superior recognition from Jackson Dart, I think this becomes interesting. Obviously, Trey Harris beat up their biggest weapon. Jordan Watkins took over quite impressively. If you're Georgia, all you have to do is you have to turn Ole Miss into a one-dimensional pickleball type team, because that can only be sustained for so long, because you know Lane Kiffin wants to go downfield, wants to take chances, wants to, go for broke. So I still think I'm going to evaluate Georgia on the road as an independent 2024 vacuum team. I'm going Ole Miss here to break through, to finish strong late. I have written down 27-23 Ole Miss.
Man, I admire it. I admire the gumption it takes to make that pick. I'm not there because of that matchup, but
home team with a pass rush, de facto Super Bowl.
I get it.
I get
it.
Yep.
I get it. You've had Wendy's Nugs dipped in sauce, Dan, but have you had them covered in sauce? Covered in sauce.
Need them.
Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs that you love, that you won't shut up about. Turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker, Dan, try spicy ghost pepper. I do want to try this, actually. I have not done this yet. I've been talking this out. Maybe this is the week that I just, go for whatever. It doesn't matter. I dare you. 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you have never nugged before for a whole new way to nug. It's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's. Let's move on.
Please.
4 o'clock, Fox Network. It is Colorado -3 on the road at Texas Tech. I teased this game out a little bit earlier, Dan. Of course, in an uncertain college football world, there is some solace in knowing exactly who a team is.
Mm-hmm.
Do we not know exactly who Texas Tech is at this point?
I think we do. I
feel like I know exactly who Tech is.
Okay, so they are a team that when they are at their best, they're running the ball and overcoming the fact that their defense is kind of way below average.
Mm-hmm.
And when Baron Morton is healthy, because I think he was out in the second half of the TCU game. That was a Will Hammond half. That when he is healthy, he can make plays as a nice connection with Josh Kelly. But they're flawed. They could lose any given game against a decent opponent by 7 to 25 points, especially if that opponent can run the ball a little bit, or they can close dramatically and hang on if they don't shoot themselves in the foot too much.
I talked about Tech a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I know it made the rounds on Texas Tech message boards. Thank you guys for your support. Appreciate you coming. I saw the traffic. Okay,
yeah,
I get
great.
it. Appreciate you coming by. Would welcome your feedback on what I'm right or wrong about here as it relates to Texas Tech. But like pass rush, pass defense, among the worst in college football, one of the worst tackling teams in college football. And so as a result, they give up a ton of big plays. Their offense isn't efficient, but they are finishing drives.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they're doing just enough to win games like they did last week against Iowa State. Because, to your point, they do have dudes on the roster.
Yeah.
And I would add, they're also still playing pretty hard. They play hard. They play whistle to whistle. They got bowl eligible last week by beating Iowa State. So this is a team that's going to fight you, and I think that's reflected in this point spread here. I'm skeptical they can do it for a second straight week.
It's a letdown spot for sure, beating an undefeated Iowa State. Yeah.
I see a letdown spot. I see a Colorado team that got a new lease now on the Big 12 and maybe a shot at the playoff because of that Iowa State upset a week ago. This game is very meaningful to the Buffs. The entire month of November is meaningful to the Buffs because they've got 4 winnable games. I like this matchup for them. I think they can get pressure. I think they can force mistakes. Against all odds, It seems as if the Colorado secondary is not a disaster.
Well, they might have one of the best 3 corners in America. That helps. Travis Hunter.
The defense is second nationally in pressure rate.
Yes.
This is a defense that has definitely improved dramatically, and I think that is what takes the cake here. So I think it's close. I think it's a fun game. I'm going Buffs 34-27.
Oh, my God. You're so close to what I have. You can look on the legal pad. Colorado 34-30 right there.
Wow. Okay.
Colorado 34-30. Okay, the entire game is if Shedeur Sanders doesn't make 3.5 terrible throws, they win. Because, yeah, you're absolutely right about the Texas Tech defense. I think the big key for Texas Tech would be possessing the ball. And that, can be accomplished either by short passes, Taj Brooks running well. And if they're not able to possess the ball, and I don't believe they're a great team at staying on the field in terms of yards per drive, in terms of how often they go 3 and out, then they're gonna find themselves with a difficult time against Colorado. The pass rush isn't there. Colorado's not unbeatable. You need to get after Shedeur. You absolutely do. And you do. This doesn't seem like a team built to do so.
If they're going to let him sit back there, they've got the wide receiving core to pick this Texas Tech team apart. Worse passing teams than Colorado have been able to pick Texas Tech apart.
Yes.
So that's my concern too, right? I mentioned the pass rush in there. I don't know where the resistance is coming from. It's kind of a weird team to chart based on the way that the stats line up
Right.
from the Tech offensive side of things. Defensively, it's pretty much a known quantity. You should be able to move the ball. Now, Iowa State kind of shot itself in the foot.
Yeah, kind of. I'd say so.
Right? Trying to be nice. But I think Tech will fight them here. I'm just on Colorado. Like them a little bit more.
I'm on Colorado a little bit more. The concern I have, aside from the Shedeur throws, is this is not a good running team. And if you're going to go on the road to a hostile place, and obviously Colorado is going to bring out a lot of emotion in a home crowd hosting Colorado, given Deion Sanders and his visibility in the sport, I'd like to be able to run the ball, right? I'd like to be able to finish drives emphatically in the red zone on the ground. And that to me is the worry, that if you're throwing a bunch, you give teams windows. You give teams a little bit of hope when you're a little bit off or it's a little bit windy over there in West Texas. That would be the concern to me, that Colorado isn't a finished product. And to win this game, as uneven as Texas Tech is, kind of requires a finished product. I just can't make the case for Texas Tech beyond being at home. And Colorado's coming off a bye as well.
That's correct.
So
this is your thing. You love
I love a good
bye.
bye. I love it. Well, like you pair that bye with Texas Tech in a letdown spot after eking out that win in the rain against Iowa State on the road. I like that sandwich. So I'm going Buffs here, 34-30.
The old Buffalo
Tight,
sandwich.
back and forth in the fourth quarter. How about that?
7:30 ABC. This is kind of the big one.
Yeah. Double bye, by the way.
Double bye. Alabama -2.5 on the road at LSU. 7:30 at night in Tiger Stadium on ABC. Perhaps to Lane Kiffin's chagrin, another night game in Tiger Stadium. This is an incredible matchup.
Yeah.
It's an incredible matchup. It is not the same matchup. Again, not the same matchup that we have seen over the years, but it is very significant.
Arguably better because of how wide open it kind of appears to be.
And the stakes. The stakes are different, but I think almost there's more pressure because the loser of this game is 3 losses, which pretty much eliminates you from the playoff. Any hopes that you would have if you're LSU, I think of weaseling your way into that SEC title game, probably go out the window with 2 losses. It's not impossible, but there's a bit of a logjam there. You would need a lot of help. So there's a lot riding on this one. And I do think we're in for a barn burner here because of something I mentioned a few episodes ago. And that's havoc rate. Again, I come back to the stat, but
so that's generating plays that are disruptive. So forcing fumbles, tipped passes, sacks, tackles for loss.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. The havoc rate on defense for LSU is way up this year.
Yeah.
You'll recall this was a very bad, historically bad defense last year. This year, they have made strides on that front.
Yeah.
And they're doing so at least in part because they're blitzing more. And they're creating a lot more pressure. So they're blitzing more. They're creating these negative plays that are, in some cases, game-changing. But they are doing so at the risk of giving up more big plays on defense. Risk-reward. You hear it all the time.
Right.
They're also giving up those big plays. So usually, at a minimum, that means that there will be big plays and it will be a highly watchable game where every play or some subset of plays is truly boom or bust from the Alabama offense in this case. I am taking LSU here.
As am I.
I am taking LSU because I generally have 2 issues with Alabama. The first is, and I want to discuss this with you because I actually don't know the answer. What is Alabama? Who is Alabama?
It's a good question.
I'm like genuinely asking you. When I ask you who is Bama, what is Bama? What does Bama mean to you?
What does government mean to you?
What are they?
Okay, so Alabama at their best is a team who can succeed downfield with Jalen Milroe, accurate downfield, able to buy time with his legs, able to scramble on 3rd and 7s for 71 yards, maybe, or 17 yards. And they are dangerous because of that kind of weapon at quarterback, on offense, and defensively. Playmakers, albeit young in the secondary, quality on all 3 levels, not consistent on all 3 levels, but quality on all 3 levels. And if you are at all flawed, that they're talented enough to take advantage on defense.
where I'm hung up a little bit with Bama is the running game.
I agree.
I think back to
I like running on the road, Ty.
I do. I think a lot about, especially this week as we were going through and doing research, I think a lot about these games in the past. And one of the developing themes in the SEC in particular this year has been like, these are not the same teams that we've seen in the past, not just because Saban isn't coaching, but even Georgia isn't as good. Like there is a lot of difference this season versus comparative games a couple years ago. Their leading rusher this season is Jalen Milroe for Alabama.
Right.
And some of the best Bama teams I can remember in recent memory all had also some of the best running backs in recent memory. It just feels like they're relying on him a lot to make a play. The best version of Bama, as he said, is him making plays with his legs going downfield.
Yeah.
It just feels like everything is riding on that. And I don't like that setup against a team that's going to bring heat, especially since the Bama line has allowed actually a lot of pressure this season. The Bama line's another thing that's not as good as it's been. So that's my first point of contention.
Okay.
The second thing is, and this is spreadsheet special, forgive me, but the numbers say that guys are getting open down the field against Alabama. Not like little dump-offs, but 36% of the throws against them are for more than 11 yards, which I think plays exactly to Garrett Nussmeier's strength, which is, as we've said time and again, Garrett Nussmeier, F it, I'm going deep.
Yeah.
That's like the subtitle for Garrett Nussmeier this year. So I think the combination of guys being open down the field, the combination of bringing pressure, forcing Jalen Milroe to, maybe make plays he's not comfortable making. Tiger Stadium at night, another thing we should throw in here. 33-30 LSU. I like 33-30 for LSU here.
So it's also a suit-up Saturday for C.J. Daniels, who I believe is questionable, third leading receiver, fourth leading pass catcher, I guess. So not the absolute number one, but you'd like that depth against Alabama. Here's the thing about Alabama to me. You know what a tasting menu is, Ty? Go to a restaurant, there's 15 courses, 7 courses, whatever. That Alabama has put together a losing tasting menu this year. How many seconds away are they from losing 4 straight to Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Georgia, and who am I missing? South Carolina.
Right.
So they're able to pull out South Carolina. They're not able to pull out Vandy. They're able to pull out Georgia. They're not able to pull out Tennessee. Alabama fans are not Kalen DeBoer fans right now, by and large. Some of the more rational ones are, saying, give them time, whatever, it's year one. But there's an overwhelming number of people that live and die with Alabama football who don't love how this team has gone through this schedule. And you're right about the strengths of LSU. I think you're right to point out the pass rush against Alabama's leaky offensive line play this year. It's a major advantage for LSU. I think I think this is going to be a game late, and I think LSU at home gives me more reason to trust them.
He's saying this is an Ashanti game for you.
It's an Ashanti game for me, 31-27, LSU at home, Death Valley, back and forth, maybe overtime. I don't know how you win by 4 in overtime, but somewhere in that vicinity, that's what I have. And I don't know. There's just something about Alabama surviving, Alabama not being able to get off the field against Vanderbilt on the road, that I'm not there with them. I wish they could run a little bit more. That would give me a little more reassurance here.
Final big game here, and then we got some very interesting quads as we get into our quad fathers.
Yes, sir.
10:15 on ESPN. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
With love here from the Eastern time zone. Jerks. BYU -4 on the road at Utah. Utah 4-4, BYU undefeated. They call this one the rivalry, Dan. The only responsible thing to do is throw out the records.
Throw them out.
Get them out of here. Get them right out. Doesn't matter. What does matter is that Utah hasn't scored more than 20 points in a game since week 4.
Yeah.
It is not great. If we want to make this about another spreadsheet special, I would say that BYU generally looks gettable on the ground, and Utah has Mekhi Bernard. What they don't have is anything else, and that is kind of the issue that I think most people
there have been some moments, some Dorian Singer moments, but you need quarterback play and an offensive coordinator who didn't resign 3 weeks ago, and like some factors to help out Dorian Singer as well.
BYU is 7-1 against the spread this season. I counted at least 4 times that I bet against them. I think I have lost all of them.
Yep.
I am just not going to do that here.
Cursing
I am
the
not going
Cougs.
to do that here. I am not going to do that here. Because, again, you got to have a reason.
Yeah.
You got to have a reason if you're picking somebody. I got no reason with Utah. What am I doing with Utah? Why would I bet Utah here? Give me like 2 reasons why I would bet Utah.
Okay, so there have been close finishes to BYU games, and you could just say it's an LRO moment for BYU in a rivalry game, and Utah forces some turnovers, busts a couple runs with Mekhi Bernard, and Isaac Wilson plays relatively clean. Maybe only throws 1 pick. I think his ratio is 8-8 this year. That you have a home crowd with it's a crazy half team this year. The Utah defense is still stout, is still by and large excellent this year, given that they can't at all play complementary football, given that the offense isn't doing them any favors, or hasn't at least since Cam Rising went down. And even with Cam Rising, was not overwhelming. Was not an overwhelming experience. No. So you have rivalry, you have great home crowd, you have defense, you have a team that is built to win 14-13 games, right? That this is what they are built to do. Maybe not with Isaac Wilson, maybe not given the changes on offense this year, whatever. That's the case, that you combine 3 turnovers and 2 long runs from Mekhi Bernard, and suddenly we're saying, oh, okay, well, that was stupid, but they won it. That's the case. I really wish this was a rivalry game, if I were to pick Utah, that it was a rivalry with Arizona State, with Texas Tech, something like that. It's at altitude. And BYU and Provo, they were born and molded in the high up darkness, Ty. This is not going to be a thing for them. I have BYU 23-14.
That feels about right to me.
I think what could swing this is I don't believe BYU is especially good on third down on offense, and Utah is nails on defense. So
I'm not getting any of the vapors from Utah right now.
You got to get to 20 points to beat BYU.
Get to 20.
I just think you got to get to 20.
Just give me something, man. No, I'm on BYU. What'd you say, 23-14?
23-14.
I'll go with that. 23-14.
I hate doing it because, again, this dog at home with a great defense.
In a rivalry.
In a
big rivalry. This is a contentious rivalry.
This is also that sort of like last gasp for Utah where you're like, yeah, the season's been a disaster. But we rode BYU's year. That's pretty cool. There's that emotional element that gave me pause.
There's a little bit of a de facto national title going on.
Of course.
And you know I love those games. I need reasons, Dan.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason here.
Could you imagine a second consecutive year of catastrophic Utah football, but they kept BYU out of the playoff?
Listen,
that
is the joy of college football.
That's what I'm saying. Distilled,
that is pure.
Yeah.
Pure college football. And to the point I have been making all season long as we talk about this playoff and the expanded field and this concern that maybe it's going to water down the product of the regular season. My case all along has been, I hope there are games like this late where one team is in effect out of it or having a disappointing year, but they still have that opportunity either against a rival or somebody else who's pretty high up in the standings and has a lot to play for, and you can give them a good old turd burger.
It's just part of this game, Ty. It's just part of this game. You think about all the action movies where like the hero is dying, but with his or her last breath, like I might be going down, but I'm taking you with me.
That's right. Let's do quads.
Yeah.
Think about the heart, the passion, the love, the commitment, and the energy you're willing to put into it.
That sound is from a gentleman named Tom Platz, known as the Quad Father. Do not do his leg workout. I am told you will be crippled. But in better news, because streaming providers, because the ingenuitive among us here, if I use that properly.
That's barely a word, if at all. Yeah.
People have showcased their ingenuity off many times on our Twitter feed.
That's better.
people who manually build quads. We're talking about watching 4 games at once. And so we pick 4 games out each window and give you what we think the 4 best are to watch. I've got 3, and then I want to kick it over to you because I don't really have a 4th for this one.
You got it.
I think this is probably, if I'm being honest, your window of opportunity. Like if you want to go out and see cats, if you want to get some fresh air, if you want to... Is apple picking still a thing? It's early November.
I think so. Depends on where you are.
Like
There's orchards
79
around.
degrees outside. Maybe you can go to the water park. This would be the block to do it, the early block. The 3 I picked out, Miami -11 at Georgia Tech. Florida at Texas. Texas favored by 21.5 points. By the way, DJ Lagway not officially ruled out of that game. It looks like the hamstring, you mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
The hamstring injury is now less significant as opposed to the very significant that we heard right after it happened on Saturday, I guess at halftime, whenever.
Right.
But Florida at Texas. Texas favored by 21.5 points. Then I've got West Virginia at Cincinnati. Cincinnati favored by 5.
Mm-hmm.
Of the other games here, are there any that jump out to you as just being interesting for one reason or another?
From the early window, other games. Well, I mentioned Minnesota Rutgers. The line seemed a little bit low.
Okay.
It's 75 degrees right now in New Jersey, apparently. Boston College, Syracuse is interesting, which, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you saw this. Tom Brenneman's calling this game.
Tom Brenneman is calling this game.
It's Thomas Castellanos, so it's not Castellanos, but it's close enough.
And it's spelled the same.
I like Boston College in this one, by the way. They've been good against the pass. They've been limiting quarterbacks. They've been better at home. The line seems a little bit weird, but it's early. I'm going BC in this one. I sort of enjoy that this is... First of all, Boston College and Syracuse, this is the 3rd time they're playing this year, as far as I can remember. That would be the one that stands out to me. Ohio State favored by 40 against Purdue. I mean, I guess we can see if Ohio State truly is a take care of business type team and a letdown spot after the big win on the road last week. But no, I think those are the games.
Yeah, by the way, that Boston College Syracuse game, the C-dub with Brenneman calling this game, cashes one of my fantasy things at the start of the year.
Yes, it does. Barely. I don't know if it was happened otherwise, but yeah.
Do you know the best team that Miami played all season?
In this moment, the best team Miami has played has been Louisville?
Louisville.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I like them so much, because the schedule I think is extremely favorable. I want to know if Haynes King is playing or not.
I do too. That would be really lovely to know if you should take points.
I want to know if Haynes King is playing. I am taking points against Miami.
You think they'll be able to run on him?
I do, actually.
Okay.
You know, Miami's proven it can give up some points, and I don't want to hold Miami to like a double standard, because as some have pointed out, who have listened to the show, who have watched this show, you can't necessarily reward a team like an SMU that in some cases has barely skated by a team like a Duke. And then at the same time, look at Miami, which had struggles with Duke, but then poured it on and ended up winning by like,
agree
points, 23, whatever. I don't have the score in front of me, but you get my point. And I think that's fair. Completely fair about Miami. My theory with the Canes, though, is that there is a loss coming. Okay.
They can't keep getting away with it, is what you're saying.
I think so. Even though they all haven't been that tight. They ran away from Duke last week. I get it. I just think a loss is coming. That is my theory for Miami football. If I am wrong, I will eat the crow. I will take the medicine.
Right.
But Miami's proven they can give up points. Georgia Tech has proven that when they're healthy, they can score.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the Haynes your way backfield. I am not taking them outright. But Georgia Tech at home, I'll take 11
Well,
points.
if you think they can't keep winning, then you're saying Georgia Tech isn't the team to upset them. But you only have a limited number of teams to pick.
You only have a limited. I mean, it basically comes down to either Georgia Tech this week or close out the year on the road at Syracuse.
Yeah.
One or the other. So maybe it's this week. I'm not putting all of my eggs in the basket of Georgia Tech as beating them outright. But I like Georgia Tech plus the number at home.
Yeah. Let me see what my pick was. I'm almost positive it's Miami. I have Miami. And I have Miami because even if Haynes King plays, missing a couple weeks of football, like he's just not going to be 100%. And so I like that it's at home. I like that I will have the opportunity that if Georgia Tech pulls off the upset on Saturday night to say, does Mario Cristobal have a Georgia Tech problem?
That's right.
I love that opportunity.
I'm on Texas minus whatever against Florida. I think they're gonna run away and hide in that game. And in the West Virginia Cincinnati game that I mentioned earlier, I am not getting good vibes from West Virginia right now.
Right.
Made the change, defensive coordinator, right?
Mm-hmm.
There have been calls to get rid of Neil Brown. Those are back with a vengeance now.
Yeah, got rid of the defensive coordinator, yeah.
I think Cincy's more well-rounded. And they've got him at home here. I don't know. I'm going to go Cincy. I like Cincy in that one. I would probably be inclined to go Minnesota as well for a lot of the same reasons, actually, over Rutgers. And bad vibes with Rutgers right now. Just feels like that has kind of come off the swivel a little bit. And I'm with you on BC as well.
Okay, so this is second straight road game for Minnesota and not an insignificant travel situation going from the Midwest to the East Coast. I have West Virginia against Cincinnati basically because of two pretty bad defenses. I'm just going to take points. I think it's going to be like a 45-42 type game. So I'm going to go with that. I said Miami. I have Texas against Florida. I mean, even if it's DJ Lagway, could you imagine trying to run away from Anthony Hill with a bum hamstring?
No. Or even with a good hamstring.
Even with a good hamstring. Well, okay. If we said fully healthy DJ Lagway, I'd be more inclined to take points here. But I'm not getting it in this picking. So I'm going to go Texas to get some quick stops, maybe a balanced crock potting here, that it looks like squinty a game at halftime. It's 17-7 and Florida had a pick six or something, and then we look up and it's 38-10 or something at the end of the game. So I'm going Texas. I'm going to give the points there. I'm taking Minnesota, but the line seems weird enough to make me think this is a Rutgers weird one, that it's second straight game on the road. I think that's everything. I took Ohio State because I don't have reason to take Purdue. Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the afternoon block.
My question to you is, how bad do you really want legs?
3:30, Clemson minus 6.5 at Virginia Tech. 3:30, Michigan at Indiana. Indiana favored by 14 at home. That game's on CBS.
But why wouldn't they be?
Yeah. 4:15 on SEC Network. We've got South Carolina minus 3.5 on the road at Vanderbilt. And to close out this quad, at least in my view, 3:30 FS1, Iowa State minus 3 at Kansas.
Yeah.
Who you got?
I'm going Clemson because of backfield uncertainty at Virginia Tech, and Clemson is flawed. You don't know who you're going to get with Virginia Tech. Even with Kyron Jones, I'd feel better about him knowing he was healthy, knowing that Tootin was next to him. I'm not there with Virginia Tech in this moment.
No. Can I tell you an interesting stat that
please.
I found from our friend Andy Bitter?
I would love.
Virginia Tech has allowed the go-ahead score in the final 2 minutes or overtime in all 4 of their losses this season.
They don't close.
Which is a dagger. Yeah. This is my last run with Clemson, by the way. I'm going to go with them now because backfield uncertainty on the Virginia Tech side. I think that's fair. But if they let me down here, I think I'm just going to go against them all season long, the rest of the way. Because if they lose this one straight up, or if this one is like super tight, that to me would be 2 weeks in a row where the schedule got a little bit tougher and we see Clemson starting to show weakness.
Right.
We didn't see it as much separate from that Georgia game in the first half of the season, but we said it's going to start getting a little bit tougher here. Lost last week. If we have weirdness again this week, I'm out. I'm going against Clemson the rest of the year.
I have Vandy winning against South Carolina. All they do is get teams in letdown spots, right?
Okay.
They had Texas after Red River. You can fact check me on that. Texas after Red River. They had Bama after Georgia. Now they have South Carolina after a program-defining or a season-defining, hopefully, win for South Carolina at home against a then undefeated in-conference SEC opponent, Texas A&M. So this is what our our parents said, our grandparents, our great-grandparents said, do not, under any circumstance, give Jerry Kill and the other Tim Beck a week to game plan for you.
It's written in stone. It's written in stone.
Along with the recipes, the heirloom recipes written down. Remember, do not give Vandy an extra bye situation to prepare for you in a letdown moment. So I'm going Vandy outright against South Carolina. I have Iowa State at Kansas, which, by the way, Guy Haberman Yogi game. Those are always weird this year.
Yeah, the Yogi.
You got a lot of like interesting, and they're not in the Big Ten this week. They're in the Big 12.
Yeah, I like it.
I've got Indiana against Michigan because all Indiana seems to do is pick apart obviously flawed teams. It's a letdown spot for Michigan, having their big last hurrah moment last week against Oregon at home. And Indiana is just... Did you see... I don't know if you saw any of the clips of Kurt Signetti with Nicole Auerbach at NBC.
I did.
Where he was like, I don't think you understand who I am.
Yeah.
Google me.
Google me.
I love that fire. I love everything about where this Indiana team is. Don't know if they beat Ohio State. Might be the most anticipated Big Ten game of the season left. I think definitely is. With how Michigan-Ohio State is looking.
Oh, my God, yeah. Not even close.
Cannot wait for that matchup. Not looking ahead, but I don't know. It feels like Indiana was built to win this game by 20. I mean, Michigan lost to Illinois by 14.
Well, and Michigan's telegraphed. Their offense is so ridiculously telegraphed, especially when they bring Alex Orji in.
Yes.
But it's just very limited. Now, again, I do think Davis Warren has gotten better at quarterback.
Yeah.
I think we saw that against Oregon, but there's only so much a decent defense can do against good offenses.
By the way, there was
on some level.
Yeah.
On some level, you got to score points, right? You got to match. And I don't feel confident at this point that Michigan can do that because Indiana, again, I've been saying it now for 4 straight weeks. The defense has been pretty good too. It's not just all offense. It's very much been a defensive story as well.
What's the number you need to score to beat Indiana at this point? 35?
Oh, I think it's at least 30.
Yeah. We'll see with Ohio State, but for anybody else other than a top-tier Big Ten team, you got to be draining threes like you're a first-round NCAA tournament team. You got to be CJ McCollum-Lehigh.
Yeah. Great.
I mean, that wasn't really luck because he's been a long-time NBA star, but that's for another show. I have Indiana in this one. I saw the behind-the-scenes Oregon video when their win against Michigan, and that 4th and goal where Alex Orji lined up in the shotgun. The entire defensive coaching staff for Oregon yelled out, trick play, trick play, trick play, trick play. It was like he wasn't going to drop back and score a touchdown. Like, that's how one-dimensional they've become.
Brutal play calling. Yeah. So I'm on Indiana. I'm on South Carolina. I'm going to go Carolina. They've actually been a really good road team this season. They played and won at Oklahoma. They played and won at Kentucky. They played and almost won, lost by 2 against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I like the South Carolina team. They're playing with a lot of fire, and Vandy's been a good story. This is a better game than we could have ever imagined 4 months ago. So that in and of itself is an accomplishment, and I'm glad to put this in the quad, but I'm going South Carolina. And I'm also going to ride with Iowa State.
Okay.
Because I don't understand this line at all.
Well, I mean, that's the worry.
It is the worry. But on a few instances now, when there have been lines when they don't make any sense, and I'm like, I'm just going to go with it, it has come back to bite me. So I'm not going to do that, and Kansas is going to win outright. But give me Iowa State minus the number.
I have NC State covering against Duke. NC State very quietly, Ty.
Shh.
I've been putting a lot of my savings into the CJ Bailey fund.
Yeah.
They're the example of, like we talk about in the offseason sometimes, you lose big, you lose small, you win big. NC State has had that whole experience in the last 7 weeks.
It's been a roller coaster, hasn't it?
I like Duke in a bit of a letdown spot after hanging with and taking the lead against Miami late. I have NC State here covering this one at home. The CJ Bailey rise continues.
Alrighty.
I don't think I have anything else in that. I have something else in that window, Ty. One more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm taking points. North Texas against Army.
Are you?
I am.
Ooh,
This
I don't like that one.
is what I hate. I hate making assumptions about a team that have exclusively played dog S offenses or defenses. Army has exclusively played donkey dong offenses here, Ty. And North
The
Texas
United
can move
States
the
Army,
ball.
be kind. Be
What?
kind. I said it's the United States Army. Be kind.
I know it's the United States Army.
They'll come for you, man.
I'm not criticizing them. I'm criticizing their opponents.
Okay.
I'm saying if you're just invading Liechtenstein all the time, I
Right.
don't know. You got to show me something else. North Texas can move the ball. North Texas can score points. North Texas can absolutely lose shootouts. North Texas can absolutely be pushed around on the ground. I'm taking the Mean Green at home here to cover against Army. The offense has been dramatically better than what Army has seen thus far.
What frightens me about that game, the point spread's 5.5 in favor of Army.
Yeah.
What frightens me is after weeks of them being nowhere close on the point spread with Army, last week they were right on the money.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to worry that they're tweaking the algorithm.
It's a little bit of Army, like, have they fully arrived? Are they a fully finished product, or are they a product of who they've played and played well against it? But I don't know. It's a little bit different on the road, traveling across the country. It's Denton, Texas, I believe.
Yep.
From the Hudson Valley. I don't know. I don't think it's a great spot.
Let's go to the nightcap.
Welcome to the pain zone is where we live.
Pain zone. Yeah, we got some
buddy.
great games here. Be pain zone for us. Here
You
on the
haven't
East
played
Coast.
my favorite Tom Platt's drop.
Which one's your favorite?
My favorite one where he goes, a lot of people don't want to put in the work. It's
you want that one?
scary.
Here, it's a longer one. Here.
You have to achieve failure.
Yeah.
You have to take it that far. Nobody wants to go that far. It's too scary.
Too
But you know something? I got news for you. That's where winning is.
That's where winning is, Dan. Let's talk about the nightcap.
Please.
7:30 NBC. I've got this one on here just for old time's sake. Florida State at Notre Dame. Notre Dame favored by 26 points.
It's a big number.
A really big number. Okay, moving on. 8 p.m. on Peacock. Great. Love the streaming only games.
Mm-hmm.
Washington at Penn State. Penn State favored by 13 points. This is officially the whiteout game that should have been last week, mind you, but that's
Right.
separate podcast. 7 p.m. Big Ten Network. Maryland at your Oregon Ducks. Oregon favored by 25 points. And I've got UCF at Arizona State. Arizona State favored by 4. There are a couple other games in this window just to be completists here.
Yeah.
Oklahoma now favored by 2.5 points. This one swung a little bit. Oklahoma minus 2.5 on the road at Mizzou. We've got Mississippi State at Tennessee. We've got Virginia at Pitt. Pitt favored by 7 points. We've also got UNLV going to the Islands to square off against Hawaii. Favored by about.
Nice win against Fresno last week. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 2 touchdown favorite there, so maybe there's a little bit of a travel situation to keep in mind. Fresno minus 11 at Air Force. Air Force has been bad, but, you just mentioned Fresno lost. So some games to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on those first 4, though?
Yeah, I've got Notre Dame covering because, sincerely, I believe since that Northern Illinois game against not-so-quality teams, they've exclusively taken care of business. Louisville's a quality team. They didn't beat Louisville by 28. But against teams that they should win by 28 plus, they have.
They have. Also, I'm not saying this to be mean.
Yeah.
Did you pop open the spreadsheet to look at Florida State?
I did. You told me to, and I
mentioned
haven't.
this to you yesterday.
Yeah.
I was aghast when I looked at the spreadsheet for Florida State.
Yeah.
So not to give too much away, but we've got a spreadsheet. It's like a dashboard that has all these numbers that we talk about.
Yeah.
And green is good. Red is bad.
Hold on. Let me write this down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Florida State is deep red on all of the offensive lines.
Yeah.
It's really bad. I thought I was looking at Kent State
Mm-hmm.
for a hot minute. It was real bad. I did not understand how bad they had gotten because Florida State's sort of been out of our peripheral vision here, right? They haven't been a meaningful player in any of these conversations, but you go in, you look at what they've done this season, and of course there are a multitude of reasons why, but it's like there's a lot going on with that offense that is real bad. I like Notre Dame to cover. I do. The whiteout game.
They have a negative EPA per play, by the way.
It's bad. It's so bad.
So every time they snap the ball on offense, they're expected to lose net 0.16 points.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I don't like Washington flying cross country a week after a big home win against USC.
Okay.
I also don't like their run defense or their pass rush, even though their pass defense is generally pretty good. But
Yeah.
I think the run defense is a problem. I think the pass rush is a problem. I think there's an opportunity here for Penn State to gash them on the ground. So I'm going to go Penn State minus the number.
Yeah.
I'll go Oregon minus whatever. I just think they're the best team in college football right now and playing at a really high level. And Maryland traveling, that's a long friggin' flight from Maryland to get out to Eugene.
Agree.
And I'm on Arizona State over UCF, man. Maybe I'm a little too high on the Sun Devils right now, but Cam Scatteraboo, like Sam Levitt, I really like Sam Levitt.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like they play with a lot of fire, and they're 6-2, like very quietly so. I don't think they're going to be in any contention. I don't think they can be in any real contention for the conference or anything crazy like that, but that doesn't matter. They were a mess 2 years ago. They improved, at least from a culture standpoint, in 2023. This year, they're actually winning games and are eligible for a bowl. I think they keep that momentum going against a UCF team that fired their defensive coordinator, changed their offensive play caller, got a good game last week from their third-string quarterback, but who knows if that continues against a better team. Just give me ASU.
Yeah, ASU an interesting spot. It's going to be tough against Kansas State, but ASU, I believe, I just looked this up, so I don't believe. I know. BYU could be 10-0, 11-0 heading into that game at Arizona State.
That's right. That's right.
That's pretty cool.
Arizona State has a very consequential schedule down the stretch. They play teams that are in the running for the Big 12, and that makes them interesting to follow, especially if they are starting to come into their own a little bit here. And going up against that UCF defense should give their offense another opportunity to put up points. Yeah,
that'll be nice on the second screen with Bama LSU, the ASU UCF game. I mean, I'll have obviously Oregon and Maryland on maybe on a laptop. It's a nice night window. I have Washington against Penn State. Penn State all year long has taken one of the megaphones from one of the cheerleaders and yelled out, "We can't distance ourselves from anybody. Please don't think we can cover big spreads, because we don't." I think Washington is just decent enough. They're both coming off, like, this is kind of a double letdown moment.
It's like a letdown look ahead cancellation situation here. You know,
they're both walking in emotionally
a
spent.
letdown look ahead sandwich with no patty in the middle.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
I'm taking the points here. I think Penn State wins this game by 7-10. I just think decent defense against Penn State. They're just not running away. I don't know. They're just not doing it this year. I have Notre Dame covering against Florida State because they take care of business. Florida State has not scored 17 points domestically this year. I think they got to 20-plus points against Georgia Tech in a losing effort, but I 45-10, something like that for Notre Dame. ASU I'm taking. Mizzou I'm taking against Oklahoma, but that's also kind of pending Brady Cook, but maybe not pending Brady Cook. Oklahoma's just like that this year.
Yeah.
I have Mississippi State plus the points at Tennessee.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. The Van Buren boys.
The Van Buren boys.
Think about it. They make you think about it.
So Mississippi State had UMass. I believe it was UMass last week. Beat them by 25. Jumped out to a nice early lead. So you're talking about Tennessee now in a little bit of a letdown spot. They won by, 10 points against Kentucky, but it was close. And then Tennessee has Georgia next week?
On the road.
Letdown look ahead. And all I'm saying is Tennessee is another one of those teams that they're just not throttling anybody in the SEC. Just like Penn State, they're winning games. They're led by their defense, but they're not beating up on anybody in the SEC. And Mississippi State is almost exclusively scoring between 20 and 30 points against everybody they play in conference. So to cover this number, I think it's just too dramatic. This isn't who Tennessee is. I have Tennessee winning this one like 31-20.
I think my lock of the week is going to be Oregon.
Lock of the week.
As I look up and down this list here, especially as I get into the nightcap, I don't see them losing that game. I don't think there's any chance they lose that game. I don't see them winning that game by less than 4 touchdowns. I think they're going to hammer Maryland.
Yeah, I think Oregon fans are hopeful that they see a lot of backups, a lot of freshmen come in and see what they have. We'll see who replaces Tez Johnson in the short term on offense, who gets some of those catches, as he's going to be out a few weeks, and he's their number one pass catcher. But this one's interesting because behind the scenes, Oregon has been recruiting the DMV pretty heavily. And so to make that kind of statement, not that Maryland is seen as a top-tier team in this moment, But I think it's a big recruiting weekend for Oregon, and Oregon has, I think, commitments or future prospects or have active players from that area. I think it's a secretly important statement type
foot on the
potential
gas
blowout.
situation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
your
obviously
lock?
Mike Loxley recruits crazy well, and so there is that element to this behind the scenes.
You have a lock this week?
I probably do, and I want to be saucy about it. Who have I felt especially special
Well, you took
about?
Ole Miss earlier. I thought that was kind of saucy.
That was pretty saucy. My lock of the week is Indiana minus 14 against Michigan.
Lock of the week.
I thought about that one as well.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to include that in my money bets when I put them out on Saturday morning.
Love that.
All right. That is week 11 in a nutshell. We thank you for downloading, for listening, for playing along at home. This does figure to be a very interesting week. Again, reminder, if you're going to be out on the road, if you're going to be out doing something, if you are in the market to get live college football games and podcasts in pristine audio form, Varsity Network app, it is free to download in the Apple App Store, on the Google Play Store. You can listen to our friends over at the College Football Blitz all day long, taking you through everything that is transpiring in the world of college football. You can also listen to us on there as well.
Of course.
As many other great college football shows and other content. So just search for your school, get whatever you're looking for with the Varsity Network app. It is free. Don't forget, we will be back on Saturday night live, midnight Eastern, over on our YouTube channel, talking through everything that took place. Don't forget to give us a call as you're watching these games at 855-VERBAL-3. And, of course, reach out on social media. We send these prompts out through the course of the day on the Twitter account. I started posting it other places as well, asking you those questions that we answer on the recap episodes.
Yes.
I am a so-and-so fan, and right now I feel so-and-so, right? Who are your dude alerts, things of that nature. So if you're wondering where do we get that from, that's where we get it from. But we're trying to post it in more places, trying to make sure we're as inclusive as we can and read as many of those responses. So
Yeah.
keep your eyes out for that a little bit later in the day on Saturday. And don't forget to go on out to playruntheboard.com for more information on how to get into our big pick'em game. Again, we're playing for this week, a $100 gift card to friends over at Home Field, as well as a $50 coupon to the Solverville merch store. Again, this beautiful work
look at
of
that.
art here. This T-shirt that says, "Win your clunkers," not just a college football thing, a life thing, as we have said so often on the show. It's available in the store. Our most popular item. Would encourage you to go out there and buy one for yourself.
Couple things, Ty. Can you please drop that big, stanky, vibrating drum and fife?
Oh
my God,
baby,
again.
baby. 12
do we
o'clock,
have?
Lehigh at Holy Cross, Dan Rubenstein.
Crusaders are going to keep going. Have not lost in conference. Give me the Crusaders here at home in the friendly confines.
Is that true? They haven't lost in conference?
They are 3-0 in the Patriot League this year, 4-5 overall.
Give me Lehigh. Come on, man. Gotta go Lehigh. 1 p.m. Lafayette, the Yetis. On the road at Colgate, the Gators. I don't do this often. Give me the Yetis.
I think Lafayette has too much offense in this one. Give me Lafayette to travel with that power.
I also think Colgate's bad.
They might be.
Capital B-A-D, bad.
Yeah, not Fordham bad, but bad.
Not Fordham bad. 1 p.m. Let me get rid of this music.
Fordham's on the board, by the way.
I saw that.
1-8.
I saw that. Fordham at Bucknell. Normally the policy in this show is I never pick the Nellies. But I'm still sort of doing my penance for what I said earlier earlier in the season about Bucknell. Watching up a bunch of Bucknell-related things.
By the
So
way,
I'm gonna
I
go
said
Nellies.
Colgate isn't Fordham bad. Colgate beat Fordham last week. So they are. I'm going Bucknell here at home.
All righty. Wherever it is you may be, thank you for downloading again, for listening, for supporting.
Yeah.
PlayRunTheBoard.com for more info on the game. 855-VERBAL-3 is the phone number. Give us a phone call as you're watching the games. We will be on social media throughout the day.
Did you just burp through that promo?
I burped through the promo. I've been drinking.
What are you drinking here?
I'm drinking a little LaCroix, not a sponsor, could be.
Yeah.
And the bubbles, you're taking in a lot of air as you're talking.
I hear you.
It's something you need to regulate. And as we've got now into our 5th decade of life, it's a little bit harder to do so.
Are you going to be regulating some pizza dough and using that grande cheese that I gave you this weekend?
I'm going to try it. Yeah, I mean, we're recording this on Wednesday. I'm going to try it tonight. I'm a little fearful that my dough that I put in the fridge has collapsed on itself. I left it in there too long. I'm going to talk to you about that offline.
Okay, fair enough.
A little bit concerned about that, but I'm going to give it a go one way or another.
Way over fermented. That's okay. You can do something with it.
We'll see. We'll see what we do.
Yeah.
I don't know. That does it for now. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrand. Thank you for downloading, listening, playing along at home. Enjoy your suit up Saturday in week 11. As always, stay solid.
Peace.